flower friends, it's Nicole from Flower Hill Farm, and we are having another bitterly cold morning. It's been down to 25 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit the last couple of mornings. I think it's above 0 right now. I think it's 6 degrees. The sun is shining, so it's feeling a little warm. 6 degrees, wow. Anyway, it doesn't stop me from really doing anything outside. I did go skiing yesterday when it was 20 below. I just wear goggles and a full face mask, and we're good to go. But I wanted to bring you guys an update on my Lisianthus that I planted a couple of weeks ago, and we'll go downstairs to the basement to the grow room to show you those updates. Okay, so this is one heat mat right here down in my grow room. I have 4 of them. Each are 4 feet long. So I was able to fit all 3 of my Lisianthus trays. I think these are 2 16 plug trays. Now I started pelleted seeds, and I've been using this mister. It helps to keep the moisture on top of the seed. It also helps to dissolve the pelleted seed. So what I'm finding though is I have great germination, but I also have like triplets. Some of the pelleted seeds had more than 1 seed because I was very careful, and I only put 1 pelleted seed inside each one of my plug trays, inside each hole of the plug tray. But some of the pellets had 2 or 3 seeds, and I think there's one that actually has 4, which is, it's just funny. So anyway, I've never had that happen before. I've used pelleted seeds in the past, and I've only had 1 seed per pellet, but hey, bonus plants. So anyway, they're going really well, but what I did notice is that I was starting to get some algae growth. Let me back up just a second. So this space down here is about 65 degrees. It's not heated. That's just the temperature in my basement. It's very well insulated. It's all underground, and it's a solid 64, 65 degrees all year long. So that's the ambient temperature in the room. I do have plastic on the ceilings and the walls, and I am keeping the humidity domes on in here until the humidity in the room gets up a little bit, because it's sitting right now at 34%. And I know that because I have a Bluetooth monitor device with the temperature and the humidity. I can go get it. It's magnetic, and it's actually on one of my shelves. So right now it's 63.5 degrees. That's actually the lowest that I've seen it. And it says that it's 38% humidity. Okay, it's going up because it was just 35. Interesting. So the temperature and the humidity are both going up as I bring it to this area. Where it was about 6 feet that way, it said 35% humidity. Over here, it's already up to 43, 44. So the temperature, the humidity and temperature are both going up as they come closer to my heat mats where Lisianthus is. Okay, good to know. Maybe I'll leave this right here. See how different? You know, it's just a few feet away and it's completely different. And the other thing I wanted to tell you guys is that I have this I have this heat mat set to 70 degrees, and it says it's 70.8. A lot of people will actually stick the thermometer, like the little needle, inside the soil to get an accurate reading of the soil. I don't do that. I actually just put this little plasticky thing underneath my whole entire thing, and that's how I calculate the temperature. You could be more exact with the stick actually inside the soil, but this is just the way that I do it. Okay, so let's take a look at the little tiny baby Lisianthus. You can see that little baby one right in the middle, and almost every single cell has at least 1 little baby Lisianthus seedling. They're actually pretty hard to point out, if I'm being honest, but you can see there are actually 2 in this cell. And then way up here, there are 3 in that cell. I'm not sure where the one with 4 is, but you can also see that there is a little bit of algae growth on here. And I want to talk to you guys about what I did and what's on top of this. Okay, so this is a tray that I have not put anything on top of yet. This is actually the Luna Rose Lisianthus and the Diamond Peach Lisianthus tray. You can see almost every single spot has a little tiny green fleck of germination, but you can also see where there's a little bit of algae growth. I know you can see right here and throughout here, there are a couple of spots where it's just coming on. Now, I've said in videos past that I don't like to use vermiculite because it's too thick. And oftentimes it can kind of overpower the Lisianthus, and it's probably going to be okay, but I get nervous that the Lisianthus seedling itself is not going to be able to push through a heavy layer of vermiculite. So what I ended up doing is putting a very fine layer of vermiculite on my cells, and I did that by using a coffee grinder. So this is the inside of my coffee grinder. It's just for coffee beans. I've had it for years. I've actually used this to make my chicken food smaller for the babies, because sometimes even when the day old chicks you get, the chicken food's still just too big for them. So I basically make it a powder for them in this. And that's what I've been doing with the vermiculite. And I'm buying fine vermiculite, but it still has bigger clumps. So I want it to be more like a dust. So I put it in the coffee powder or the coffee grinder, and I turn it basically into a powder. That way I feel more comfortable that my seedlings aren't being drowned out by the vermiculite, and I also feel better because the algae is being hindered by the vermiculite being on them. So I'm gonna go ahead and crush up some vermiculite and put it on the final tray here. So I have the base, whew, it's so powdery that every time I shake it, it kind of, whew, little cloud of vermiculite dust pops up. So I'm gonna go ahead and sprinkle it on the tray. That was me forgetting to hit the record button. So it went from 0 vermiculite to fully finished. Anyway, it took like 15 seconds and I didn't even realize I didn't hit record, and then my camera just went like fell asleep. I was like, hey, well, that's what happens if you don't push the record button. Okay, so now because these are almost fully germinated, I'm gonna take them off the heat mats and put them underneath my grow lights. At this point, I'm taking the humidity domes off and just putting them straight underneath the lights. These lights are a little bit high. I'd probably lower them another 1.5 inches just to have enough room to put my hand underneath, because these are not, they're LED, they're not even warm. So they're not giving off any heat. They're not gonna burn your plants. And as long as you have them high enough so where they're covering your entire space, should be good. So there are only 600 Lisianthus plugs here. Last year I grew over 2,000 of them. A lot of you guys are asking me, why so few? Why are you growing less Lisianthus? Well, my answer is, I want to grow more. But if I were to start from seed, all the Lisianthus that I want to grow, I would fill my entire grow room with just Lisianthus. And that just doesn't make sense to fill my whole room. I have thousands of other things that I want to grow. So what I decided to do was order in more Lisianthus plugs. So I'm giving my best shot on these 6 varieties from seed, just because I do love growing it from seed. There's some satisfaction that you get watching something grow from seed to flower. But it makes more sense for me to use plugs when it comes to Lisianthus, because I don't have the space to do everything that I want to do here. Maybe eventually I'll have a larger grow space, more, maybe double the grow shelves, but right now this is what I have to work with. So that said, here are the Lisianthus plugs that I'll be expecting in the mail later on this spring. So I decided to order from a person I've ordered from in the past. It's Farmer Bailey. I visited his farm last fall. His farm is Ardelia Farm in Vermont. Not only does Farmer Bailey have his own flower farm where he supplies wholesale and weddings and stuff like that, he also started a business to sell plugs to fellow flower farmers. So he offers a variety of new Lisianthus, never been seen before, and that is where I bought my plugs for the upcoming season. Starting from the bottom and making my way to the top of my order, I'm starting with my favorite Lisianthus, which is the Rosanne Brown. It's a vintage brown with a little bit of pink, and it's just so beautiful and antique looking that I fell in love with it when I grew it for the first time 3 seasons ago, and it's amazing. So we have Lisianthus Rosanne Brown, we have the Corelli Apricot, we have a couple of fringe varieties. These are called Sumika Japanese Lisianthus. This is a fringe type called Honey Pink. We also have a fringe type called Megalo Mega White. We have a fringe called Green. And then the ABC varieties, I got a couple of those in this order. The first one's called ABC Lavender, and then ABC Yellow because I did love that one so much. So I added, it's another ABC variety called Misty Blue. And then the last one that I ordered is called, it's a Doublini, which is like a spray with smaller flowers, and that one is a rose pink variety. So let me count these up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
So 9 times 210 each, that's 1,890 plus the 600 that I'm growing here. God willing, though we'll make it to the ground. So that's about 2,500 Lisianthus plugs that I'm expecting this year. That's more than I've ever done. Last year I started 2,100, but you have to remember I had the fungus gnats and that took out a large portion of them. I remedied the fungus gnats, started the last of my seeds, and I believe about 500 to 600 plants actually made it to the ground. I did have some issues with some rot on a couple of my orange and lavender ones, but for the most part, I probably harvested out of all the ones that I had last year, 200 Lisianthus. So I started with thousands and I only harvested 200. So there are some changes that I'm gonna be making this year in order to maybe do a little bit better, including buying the plugs. Some of you may have noticed that I have a tray of soil blocks right here. These are Champagne Bubbles poppies that I started, about a week ago. Anyway, I'm gonna be trying out these poppies in the hoop house. They were on the heat mats. I just moved them over and took off the humidity dome just a little bit ago. It looks like a zinnia seed. Huh, it's not. Anyway, so these will be hanging out here with the Lisianthus. This is the only shelf I have on right now. I have nothing else on. So that will change soon because I am gonna be experimenting with some stuff in the hoop house, which I will be talking about in an upcoming video called Flower Hill Farm, Flower Farm Plans 2 Inside the Hoop House. I like it. It's a great title. Too long, annoying, it's perfect. Anyway, what else was I gonna say? If you were wondering what was up with my Lisianthus this year, that's the story. So this is how, I wouldn't say all, but I would definitely say most of the flower farmers that I know buy in the plugs. They are professionally grown from nurseries that strictly start plants, and that's a wonderful thing. There are actually some flower farmers who don't start anything from seed, and they buy in all of their plugs and just put them in the ground. So a lot of you might be wondering how much buying plugs cost. Now I can tell you it's not cheap. It's more cost effective to start from seed, even though you have to purchase your growing medium, the grow lights and the shelves. Over time, those things will pay for itself. So the plugs, which usually contain 210 little seedlings, range in price from $60 to about $71. The fringe ones were a little bit more at $70.96. Oh, the Rosanne Brown was the most expensive. The Rosanne Brown was $75. So for 210 plugs, you're paying $75 plus shipping. All of these will ship together, so it's not gonna be crazy shipping, but it is more cost effective, obviously, to start them from seed. I did, however, calculate the amount of electricity that it takes. Last year, I calculated this. The amount of electricity that it takes to run a light on a Lisianthus for 14 weeks. I think I figured it out, it was like 13 cents a day per shelf. So if you calculate that, let's say 14 weeks, that's 14 times 7. Let me do this math, I'm not a mathematician in my head. So 14 times 7 equals 98 days times 0.13. So it costs about $13, $12.74 if you want to be specific, to run a shelf. I have 600 Lisianthus plugs on this shelf. I could fit another 200. I could fit another right here. So I could fit 800 on a shelf. So for 800 plugs, it would cost about $13, but that doesn't count my time. I have to come down here every day and mist. The vermiculite costs money, the growing medium costs money, the plug trays cost money, and most importantly, your time is worth something as well. And don't forget the fertilizer if you do that and stuff like that. So it's not a cut and dry number. You have to kind of think about it over time if it's worth it for you to invest your time, energy, and money, or just your money into buying the plugs. And those plugs will be shipped to me the 16th week of the year, which I believe is mid-April, because they are cool flowers and they can go into the ground before your last frost. So anyway, I'm talking crazy here with Lisianthus, and I have other things to do, so I'm gonna let you guys go, but thank you so much for sticking around, and we'll see you soon. My dog is chewing on a dog bone. about 5 feet away and he's very loud, so I apologize if you hear that. Look at my babies, I love them. Hello. Oh, look at